Welcome to the Better Business Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Zelan. Join me week after week as I interview high-level entrepreneurs on their journey to success, both in business and personal development. Each week presents new stories to learn from and new ideas on how to run a better business. Stay updated with all the guests we'll have by subscribing to this podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Better Business with Austin Zelan. I'm so excited to have our guest Samantha Overmars with us today. She's going to be telling us how she's been able to build and successfully run a hair salon in the heart of Bellevue, Washington. So Samantha, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm super excited to hear what you have to say and a little bit about your story. So why don't we start out with telling the audience a little bit about how you got started in your industry?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I started as a hairstylist. I actually went to college for interior design, and I've always loved hair and decided to go to cosmetology school. I'm from Lake Tahoe, Nevada, and there's not a lot to offer there. So I moved here and wanted to find the best city and ended up going to Bellevue. I worked at a salon called Obadiah, and I met my best friend, Elle, and we were both apprentices there. We were stylists there for probably 3 years. And then I got pregnant and had a baby and wanted a change. And so Elle and I decided to open our own little space. We thought that it would just be our thing. And we would just see what it was like to, run a business on our own. And we grew really quickly. We couldn't handle the clientele that we had.
Wow.
So we hired another stylist who actually was a Seahawks cheerleader.
Oh, wow.
And she was going to the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
And so she came on board with us. We hired a couple more stylists. And eventually, fast forward 2 years, we had this little, probably 800 square foot, office building space. It was nothing special.
Yeah.
But we were finding every outlet we had to, plug in a hairdryer, get a hairstylist in there, and just take the clients. It was crazy.
Wow. So that was your first year in business?
That was probably about year 2. I would say by year 2, we were bursting at the seams.
Wow.
And we had no intention of growing a big business. We just, truly wanted to be together, and we had kind of an idea of the space we wanted to create. And it really did. It grew. We had a paper wait list of so many clients that we just, couldn't handle it. So then we started to look for a bigger space. We found a space in Issaquah, and we opened that up, I think 3 years later. That was really successful. And then COVID happened. I think so. That was 2020. And I would say, so at that point, we probably had about 30 stylists working for us. I think 26 of them walked out and left.
Wow.
With COVID. Yeah. So it was rough.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they just quit.
They quit.
All in one day.
It was probably a span of a month. It was a very painful month.
Yeah. So what happened to all those clients that still had booked appointments?
Well, when COVID happened, they shut the salons down. So no appointments. So we couldn't take any customers. And I think it just created a panic, and we didn't really have a plan. And we were still so new to business. So they went and started their own things. They just quit doing hair. They just all left. Wow. Yeah. So that was pretty crazy. I think Elle and I thought about just being done at that point. Mm-hmm. And then, it kind of, a lot of really great things came from that. So I joined a CEO group called Vistage, which is incredible, changed my life, really taught me how to run a business. I really didn't have any clue how to run a business. I was just figuring it out. Yeah. And we kind of thought, this is a great opportunity to just start from square one and retry running a business. Yeah. So we did. And
so you shut the old one down and you started something new?
We didn't shut it down. No, we kept it open. We reopened it after COVID. We, tried all the innovative things. We sold products online. We didn't do any in-home haircuts or anything because we really wanted to follow the rules. But we were pretty successful with our product sales online, and that actually helped teach us how to sell online. So that was a great thing. And then we reopened and we rebuilt it, and then I think it's been about 2 years now. About 2 years ago, Kemper came to us and said, Obadiah is shutting down. Will you guys come and reopen the Obadiah space? So, which was really neat for us because it was like a full circle. And that space wasn't a good fit for us, but there was another space right next to it. And so we decided to open that space. And so now we have our, we ended up shutting down the very first Bellevue location. So now we have the Issaquah location and the Bellevue location in Bellevue Collection and kind of the Lincoln Square area there.
Yeah.
And we have close to 50 employees, probably about almost 40 stylists. So we kind of just rebuilt the whole situation.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, there's a couple things that I want to touch on in your story. I think a really cool part that I admire is that, you know, you had this situation with COVID. You didn't really know what you were doing in business. You were still learning. And then all these people left and you're like, what do we do? But instead of letting that failure stop you and just, you know, quitting and shutting down the business, you decided to turn that into a win. And I think so many people can relate to that, where they've been put into situations where they don't know what to do. And they've maybe never run a business like that before. And they're encountering all these challenges that are unpredictable and we don't really know what's going to happen to the business, but they find a way out of it. So what was going on through your mind like during this time where you're like how did you decide to keep going? How did you decide to find the motivation and even make yourself be in the right headspace to continue something like that?
Yeah, I think we definitely had moments of, you know, very dark. I mean, it was such a scary time. Like you just had nobody had ever experienced that. So there was so much fear. But Elle and I are really strong together. And I think like just knowing that we genuinely enjoyed running a business together and starting it over again was such a beautiful opportunity and ended up being the best thing that could happen to us. Cause we could take everything that we learned and like not a lot of businesses get kind of a clean slate and then able to like totally restart and rebrand and, so we just persevered. I mean, we built it from the beginning, so it was easy to like redo it again.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And another thing you mentioned is the rapid growth that you had at the beginning. I know many business owners are kind of stuck at, they started a business and they're like, all right, where are the clients? You know, so what did you do that was different than other people that allowed you to have that huge influx of clients within your first 2 years? Because I mean, that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. I think what we did that was different was we really were looking at the trends that were happening kind of ahead. Like I would say like right now, AI is such a big thing. So it's amazing that you're doing that. For us at the time, Instagram, like it was barely starting and we saw that as an opportunity. We instantly kind of got on Instagram and we had this determination of getting followers, making the connection, and it really wasn't popular at the time. So we just built up our Instagram and then it was truly like a word of mouth networking thing. I mean, there are times I'd be listening to the radio and they would, so this is actually one of our coolest like clients is that I'm listening to the radio and they're saying, you know, something about a hair. And I call the radio and I'm like, hey, you know, I own a salon. This is the thing about hair, but also where do you guys get your hair done? And so it was Molly Mesnick at the time. And she was like, well, I don't have a salon. So she came in and she was on The Bachelor. And so just like that little connection and being a little bit bold in that, you know, then it turned into so many more connections, so many more kind of local celebrities and things. And there's just a lot of opportunities like that. We grew within the Seattle Seahawks. We now sponsor them, do all the Seattle Seahawks cheerleaders. We go to every game. And that was because of our friendship that then now those Seahawks dancers are now the director and in charge of VIP events. And so I think it's like really creating relationships and networking and then being really bold about getting ahead of things with your brand.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's really important to build a strong network in business. And like you said, sometimes you just have to be bold, you know, and pave your way as a business owner to build those relationships and be intentional about that. And I think more importantly, also keeping those relationships up. It's not just a one-time thing. It's not just a hello one time or a phone call. It's how do we cultivate that relationship to make it a long-term thing, and how can we provide the most value to that person? So huge props to you on that. And then you mentioned something else really interesting that I'm a huge fan of, is finding a CEO group. Like, I am a huge fan of like masterminds and stuff like that. I'm part of several of them where I've gone to learn from other successful people, because everybody's business journey is different. Some people were affected by this, some people were affected by that. And it's just so valuable. You save so much time and money just learning from other people's experiences. So what are some highlights that you've learned from that?
I learned so much from Vistage. It's incredible. When I joined, I was the youngest. I was the only woman, and I had the smallest business.
Wow, that's a good room to be in.
And I'm still sort of in that space with them. It's much more successful businesses, and it's definitely humbling. But it's interesting how there's no business is exactly the same. In this group, we don't like promote each other, but we learn from each other. Mm-hmm. And it's just interesting how it's like so fluid. Every business is going through really similar things, whether you're $100 million, billion dollar company, $5 million company, like it's very similar problems. And I think that when you don't have that network, it is hard. They say the thing like it's lonely at the top. It's not necessarily lonely, but you can't relate. You don't have somebody to like run those situations by, and it can feel isolating and hard. And so having those people to like really talk through those scenarios that have experience or can go through that with you. And it's also, it's about accountability. So you have to show up with your numbers. You have to show up with, the things that you want to change, and you are held accountable to the action. So if you haven't done it in 30 days, you have these companies or these CEOs that are, so much bigger than you. And they're saying like, why have you not fired that person yet? Like you can't come here and complain about that if you're not going to do anything about it. Yeah. So it teaches you, if you're going to talk about it, and you should talk about it, you're going to do something about it. And that's been fantastic for me. Yeah,
definitely. Accountability is a huge thing in business, and it can really help you make sure that you're like being super intentional about these things. Like we can complain about it all we want or talk about it all we want, but you got to actually take action. So let's kind of backtrack a little bit to your story. So Kemper talks to you, you're in this new space now. Yeah. And so once you're starting there, what were some of the challenges you'd say you encountered growing to where you're at now?
I think we kind of had been this small business, and coming into the Bellevue collection, it was sort of like the adult version of a business. And you have a lot of requirements that we weren't used to having. So, and it's expensive to be there. So you have to be pretty serious about your numbers and making a profit, or you could quickly, be in debt. So I think it's just made us level up and get very serious and intentional about what we're doing. And that's been really good for us.
Do you think that's a wise move for business owners to put themselves in a position where it's maybe just a little bit uncomfortable, like let's say on a lease payment, but then it makes them work harder?
For the right business, yes. I think that something I've learned is that I think you have to be intentional about your growth. Like there's a lot of very exciting opportunities out there. And if you're not intentional about that opportunity, you can quickly sink yourself. So I think if you're really, the type of entrepreneur that is going to do the work, and you're going to get in and figure it out, and a little bit of a challenge makes you rise to the occasion, then it's fantastic. Like that's worked really well for us. But I think you have to be careful about it, because it can also be overwhelming or be too much. So I do think it's about knowing your limit and being intentional about like the steps that you take towards those limits.
Yeah, definitely. Now, when it comes to opportunities coming your way, many business owners, they don't really know how to say no or how to say yes to certain things. So where do you draw the line as far as what you say yes to and what you say no to when it comes to new opportunities being brought to you?
I think that that's something that we're, always learning. I think you kind of have to weigh out your time. I try to be really careful about my employees' time too. Is it going to be worth their time? Does it bring value? Is it about a long-term relationship? Is it something that just might be a good experience and you're just kind of learning from it. But I do think that's something you have to be cautious of, because the busier you get, the harder, you can easily take up your time signing up for every opportunity, and it's not necessarily one that's a good use of your time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now, when it comes to company culture, what have you done to cultivate a strong culture that people enjoy and they're proud to work for you? Like, what have you done in that area?
Culture has been a big area of growth for us, and I think we've learned a lot. I think you have to understand your purpose, and you have to, we do the vision and the mission and our values, and really understanding who we are and why we're doing it. And and that has taken time, and we learned that through COVID. And then I think you have to have confidence and security in that, and you have to be okay with saying no to people that don't fit that. And so the culture sort of evolves around those things. So,
basically you've created a culture, and then every new person that you hire has to fit that culture, or else they're not.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're and it's a very it's like we completely are okay with you not being a good fit for us, or us being a good fit for you. I'm not quick to hire. I'm really trying to be intentional about every hire. And sometimes people don't work out, but I feel very secure in knowing what my company is trying to do and what is a good fit for that. Whereas I maybe didn't have that in the beginning, because I didn't really understand myself, or our culture, or our business. And so there's a lot wrapped up in where the business is going, what the business is, and how, it needs to be a good fit for the person coming in. But I think that our culture, one of the big things too, is genuinely learning how to listen and how to lead in a place of developing people that also fits within what your business is trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think that we've, started to get better at that as we've grown in our business.
So what strategies have you used to attract that top talent? Let's say you want the best hairstylist in all of Washington. What do you do to attract these people to your business?
It's such a combination. I think that's part of our brand, right? Really getting it out there, who we are and what we're doing. So that's obviously all of our social media. And I think even being in Bellevue Collection, it tells its own story. And then we do spend a lot of time going into schools, recruiting, connecting. We don't necessarily, we're not trying to go out and seek people, but we are really putting out. We have a great marketing person that's putting out videos and talking about what we have to offer, and just really kind of getting our story out there. And so that does bring in people that are attracted to that.
Yeah. So it's all about getting attention, because what you have is quality, and doesn't matter how good it is if people don't know about it.
Yeah.
So you have to also get attention in combination to the quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you found paid advertising or maybe just organic social media content to work better for you?
We have hired marketing companies and tried paid advertising, and that has never worked for us. We've never been successful in it. I think it's always been the organic for us. It's the relationships, it's the things that we create in-house that really tend to get attention. Yeah, I have not figured out how the paid situation is successful.
Yeah, definitely. So how do you ensure that your products and services are always meeting or exceeding customer expectations? Because when people see you, they're like, okay, this salon is in Bellevue Collection. It has to meet a certain standard. And when they're coming in, you've got 47 stylists, you said. So how do you ensure that everybody's up to par and they're representing you well?
That's something we're always striving towards. I think consistency. And so we have monthly staff meetings. We have one-on-ones that are anywhere from weekly to monthly. We have several check-ins. We have just a constant stream of communication, constantly updating all of our systems and creating those, and continually doing education. There's probably some sort of education class happening weekly. And I think it comes from your culture too, having a team that wants to be involved and is constantly engaging in those things so they understand what the expectations are.
Okay, so do you incentivize them to engage in the additional learning?
No, we hire people who are interested in being a part of a team and want to constantly learn and be in that culture.
Okay, so it just comes naturally for them. They just want to be better and improve all the time.
If you get the right people that understand what we're doing, then they're already buying in. I don't need to really, I do incentivize, on other things, but not to be better and to educate themselves. They really want to do that kind of naturally.
Yeah. So maybe somebody's watching this and they're like, wow, I can't imagine having a business with 50 employees. I can barely manage my 5 employees. I don't know what to do with my time. So how have you been able to manage your time and your resources efficiently running an organization like that?
I think it's truly about your team, finding the right team, and that takes time. And so finding the right people to help you and delegating that. And then it is being intentional with your time. It's being okay with saying no. It's understanding, what the best use of your time is. And I think if you truly enjoy it and you have the right team that can help organize you, it just kind of naturally can grow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So basically your team, you've delegated everything to your team and they help you stay organized.
Yeah. Without my team, there is no way I would be able to do this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. So what would you say is one investment, whether it's time or money or whatever it might be, maybe a partnership that has paid off significantly in your business? Could you walk us through that a little bit?
Vistage, 100%. Yeah. So Vistage, I'm in it with my CEO group. My executives are in it. Mm-hmm. And they are constantly there's the accountability. They're bringing in speakers. There's coaches. There's the network that you have. So it's taught me a lot of organization, a lot of different business models that have, worked really well. Elle goes and she's always bringing back some form of business that we need to try, and she also implements it. So it's doing it and then, implementing it as well.
Yeah. So do you find that being part of this group has basically given you the strategies that you need to apply to your business? Or have you found maybe books or online courses that you've used in supplement to that?
I think for me, it's all of those things. I'm constantly reading. Elle's constantly listening to podcasts. We're constantly trying kind of new things. I think it's just you have to surround yourself by all of it. You have to surround yourself by the groups. You have to read. You have to do the podcast. You kind of have to do it all.
Yeah. Cool. So how have you been able to maintain a work-life balance with all this going on?
I'm not sure if I do, but...
do you believe in a work-life balance?
Yeah, I do. I think it is the best it's ever been for me.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit of, I don't know, I would look at it, it feels almost selfish to some respect. I have 2 young kids. I want to be with them and I don't want their childhood to pass me by. So, I have a fantastic assistant. I have a team, and now I'm a little bit okay with, not being there all the time and letting the team run it, and they do a great job. And we actually just talked about this. It's handing off some of the really great opportunities that you might really love to do, from traveling to, Seahawks games, and just handing that off to your team and letting them take it and see what they do. And they've done amazing with it. So you have to give up a little, and you have to be okay with saying no to some things.
Yeah. So was that a process for you, trying to kind of get yourself to let go of some of these things and hand it off to your team? I know many people struggle with that.
Yeah.
They want to do everything on their own. They're like, well, nobody can do it as good as I can. Nobody can do this, to the 100% capacity that I can. Do you believe that there was maybe a certain moment or maybe something happened that allowed you to kind of switch into that? Or were you always like that?
I don't know that I'm not super... I really do like to have a team. I work better with a team. I wouldn't say that I'm incredibly uptight about needing to do everything on my own. I think that it's about knowing how to find the right people to do the things for you, and then trusting them. And then I love when I can trust somebody to let them take their vision and grow it, because I think that's just as rewarding when you watch somebody else sort of grow and have a different vision and bring your company to an even bigger thing than what you could do on your own.
So what's your plan for the future of the salon? Are you planning to grow it to be a nationwide thing, or you want it to just be here, or maybe you want to add an educational aspect to it? Maybe you already have one.
We are focused actually right now on our extensions. So we offer extensions in our salon, and we have our own line of extensions.
Okay. And you're only selling it in your salon, or is it a national thing?
We are starting to sell it in other salons. We have only sold it in our salon, but we're now actually offering education and selling it in other salons. And we're really excited about that. We have our own line of hair. It's beautiful. It's the highest quality I found. And so we're really focused on that. We also have started selling our own products. We have a hair dryer and some brushes and jade roller. And so I'm only planning right now on having the 2 salons, and I want to see what we can do with the extensions in our product line.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. So if somebody's watching this and they're like, wow, it's amazing what you've been able to build, but how can I scale my business? What would you say to somebody who's watching this and they want to scale their business as well? What are maybe 3 things that they should do in order to grow to the next level?
I think really understanding your business is the most important part. So like I said earlier, like, what is your purpose? Why do you want to grow your business? And then being able to get a team that is on board with that vision. And if you can do that, then I think it naturally will start to scale from there. And I do think your numbers and your financials are really important too. Like, what is the, because as you get bigger, sometimes you're not necessarily profitable. So really looking at, am I better here? Or like, where is my profit margin as I grow? And can I get a team of people? And can I really market this? Do I have something special enough that's going to then grow in that way?
Okay, cool. And when it comes to competition, how do you see competition? Do you see it as a challenge to be better? Do you not see any competition around you? Some people say that there's no such a thing as competition because people love you for what product or service you provide, and they'll always come to you no matter what the competition does. So how do you see that whole dynamic?
I think I don't have any like concern about my competition. I'm not worried about it, but I think it's an opportunity to learn. So I think we really love to look at our competition because we learn a lot from our competition. So I think it's like a fantastic thing, and it's really fun to look at who's doing something better than us. And we've even got some young people in our industry right now that we're like, wait, what are they doing? So I enjoy competition. I think it's fun, but it's not something that I'm losing sleep over.
Have you leveraged AI anywhere in your business so far?
We're starting to, yeah. And we're really excited about AI. We have our chatbot, and we're starting to teach our chatbot. It's been fantastic for even just like our website with the product. And it was really hard for us to like shoot product. Well, now we can do it all through AI. We're utilizing it in our processes. It definitely saves us a ton of time. Anywhere from, there's some amazing video, that you can do with AI, and just, we're really excited about AI, and we're excited to kind of figure it out more and learn and see what it can do.
So when it comes to financial management in the business, what have you found to be some best practices to help you stay on track and make sure that you're profitable, make sure you're budgeting correctly, you're not taking on too much debt, you're not over leveraged? What have you done in that space?
Currently, that's where I have decided to be maybe in charge of all of that. So I took it all over, and I look at it daily, and I'm watching my numbers very closely. I'm watching my expenses. I think it's easy to let go of that and not to really have a handle on it. And so for me, I've hired a lot of people to take over my finances, and it's working very well for me to be in charge of all of my finances. And so I think, I don't know what that looks like as you continue to scale, but I do think having a very close eye, and it's something you should just like always sort of have your finger on.
Yeah, I think it's very important. You can't improve things that you're not tracking.
Right.
So you got to track it daily. You have to watch what's happening financially daily. You got to check the accounts daily. And I think that really helps you stay level-headed and on top of it as a business owner. Now, would you ever hire somebody to just run the whole thing for you and be like an absentee owner? I know it sounds bad, but it might not actually be bad.
Yeah, absolutely. If there was a high enough profit in it, I would absolutely do that.
Cool. Now, what are some common mistakes that you see people make on their entrepreneurial journey?
Let me think about that. I think it's easy to get excited, like in the hype of being an entrepreneur, and maybe like the name of it, the growing it, that I really want to own something, and I kind of want to be the boss, and and I think it's important to really have a good balance of understanding the business, and then also getting excited about promoting your brand. Sometimes I think it's the opposite. Like, you're so caught up in how to run the business that you don't necessarily know how to run the brand and be the brand, but it's like that combo of being the brand and really being smart about how you run the business.
Yeah. Definitely. So have you seen your personal brand be a huge component of your business?
Yeah, I think so. I think that Elle and I have definitely like word the story of the brand. And so that is important, but I do like to keep it focused on the Chromatique brand and sort of building that name. I don't necessarily want to be the face of the business. I want Chromatique to be the face of the business.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. Now, as we wrap up here, what is the best piece of advice that you've gotten as a business owner throughout your whole career as a business owner?
Well, the thing that comes to my mind that I kind of always just live by is, and I say this a lot to my staff, that it's leave things better than you found it. And so I think we do that. It works really well for us. And, you know, we do that with each other. We do that with our staff. We do that with our clients. And so it's constantly like figuring out a way to improve and make people's lives better.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great motto to live by. And I think that also kind of speaks to the culture that you're building within your organization. You know, whenever you touch something, you leave it better than you found it. And I think that just gets everybody on the same page. It's like such an actionable motto. It's not like, oh, we're the best. It's more like we're going to make it better. Yeah, we're always improving. So yeah, well, thank you so much for joining me here today. If people want to find you, where do they find you? On social media or website?
Chromatique Salon, chromatiquesalon.com and chromatique.salon on Instagram.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for joining us here today. This was a very interesting talk about salons and salon management and growing even during times that are uncertain. You know, when you have challenges that you've never encountered before, you never expected, but you find a way to pivot and you find a way to grow your business even when you don't really know what the next step might be. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you all on the next episode.